A Simplex converted to a Great Western Railway Prairie tank, Part 20, removing the paint from the side tanks and bunker assembly and fitting the petticoat pipe. I'm using a commercial paint stripper for this job. Normally I would submerge any parts in some cellulose thinners which dissolves the paint, but this is a bit big. In the last episode I built a simple wooden frame to support the superstructure, because I was going to take it to a company down the road who do powder coating and they have a bead blasting facility. When I spoke to the man there, he seemed very concerned how much paint was on this thin brass, which I suppose is logical. The thicker the paint, the longer the bead blasting process takes to remove it. I know this for a fact because I have used a bead blasting cabinet at the steam workshop. I really hate this type of paint stripper. I think it smells very nasty. If you touch it, it burns your skin. Yes, it's very nasty indeed, but I have to admit it removes the paint very well. On the outer parts of the side tanks, everything's been varnished after the transfers were fitted, but this is not so on the inside of the side tanks, so the paint stripper gets to work immediately. Look at this, it's like a horror film. You can clearly see the chemical reaction. The paint doesn't like this stuff at all. This is a thinner layer of paint because there's no varnish on top of it, so the paint stripper is really getting to work very quickly. After a while I thought I would help it along by prodding it with a brush. The instructions on the can say not to paint this paint stripper onto the paint you want to remove, but to pour it on there, which is what I did, and now as you can see it's removing very easily. The trouble with this paint stripper is it starts to work really well, then it dries out and stops working. To allow the paint stripper some time to work, I thought I'd do another job on the engine. This is fitting the petticoat pipe. The petticoat pipe is a piece of copper tube with some brass lugs silver soldered to it. And unfortunately, the holes in these brass lugs on the petticoat pipe are not in the same place on both of them. Before fitting the petticoat pipe, I thought it would be a good idea to reprofile the flare because it had lost its flare. I did this using a small ball-peen hammer and working on the end of the bench. Once I'd done this, I bolted the petticoat pipe in position, and as you can see, the two holes are not perfectly in line, but they are relative to the brackets on the petticoat pipe. And when the petticoat pipe is bolted to the smoke box, and the chimney is pushed onto the end of the petticoat pipe, it looks fine. The flare of the chimney covers the countersunk bolts. One more job out of the way, back to the paintwork. Here I'm outside using a hose pipe to blast off the paint. And as you can see, it's not doing a bad job, but there is insufficient pressure to really blast the paint. The hosepipe washes away quite a lot of the paint, but not all of it, so it's time to apply some more paint stripper. I think I'll tackle the bunker. I'm pouring the paint stripper onto the side, then using the brush I'm transferring it to the back of the bunker. Because it's very warm outside today, I'm a bit concerned that by using the paint stripper outside in this heat, it may dry up too quickly, but as you can see, it seems to be working, at least the varnish layer's coming off. Leaving some time for the paint stripper to do its stuff on the bunker, I also applied some to the other side tank on the inside. Suddenly I remembered I had an old pressure washer under the bench in the outer part of the workshop, so I plugged my hosepipe into this and it was a lot better at blasting the paint off. It's only a very small pressure washer, it's one I bought for a job a few years ago, and I haven't used it since. This was a very enjoyable experience because I was getting covered in small droplets of water. After a good going over with the pressure washer, this is where I am. There's still pieces of green paint stuck to the metal, and I haven't really addressed the black paint on the top of the tanks, and my tin of paint remover is running out. That will have to do for now. I took the assembly back into the workshop and started to remove the paint using a ruler. The paint really did remove very easily this way. I followed that up by using a steel wire brush, which wasn't very effective because the space between the bristles was quite wide. So instead I used a brass wire brush that I have, and it's much better for the job. It removes the paint from around the rivets, or most of it anyway. It's scratching the brass, which is a good thing to key the brass for the next coat of paint. But I'm nowhere near that yet. The best tool by far to remove paint from brass parts is a ruler like this. The only problem with the ruler is it doesn't get right into the corners around the rivets. At this moment in time, I'm thinking I will still take the part to the bead blaster. Maybe I should buy some more paint remover and try it that way. I still favour the cellulose thinners method of removing paint, because you literally sit the parts in the cellulose thinners, come back the next day and all the paint's dropped off. But I'm still being indecisive as what to do with this. Here's the story so far. It's looking a lot better. I'll think about it and let you know what I'm going to do in the next episode. Stay safe, stay well, thanks for watching, and I hope you found it useful. Please take the time to visit my Mainsteam Models website and click on the section of the website that says Video Playlists. And by doing that, you can find other videos that you may like to watch. And by using the playlists, you can actually watch the videos back to back.